There is something that has been bothering me lately. So it's not an object, it's more like a feeling. And it's the feeling of in betweenness. I don't really know how to describe it. I think the closest description I have conjured up so far is the feeling of you being alone, floating in the middle of the ocean, laying on your back and looking up at the sky. You're not drowning, but you're not standing on the ground either. I think that's the closest description I have. And I think that feeling comes when I'm trying to separate culture from religion, especially if you come from a place with a rich cultural background that doesn't necessarily fit in with religion. And people often talk about reverts and everything they've sacrificed for Islam, obviously, like their old religion. Maybe they moved to a new place, maybe they're shunned by the rest of their family, and we acknowledge it, it's true and it's hard, and may Allah make it easier for them. But also, I feel like we don't talk about born Muslims who's born into a culture that doesn't necessarily align with Islam. Maybe they're born into like a paganistic culture, where the majority of their friends or families are not Muslim. Obviously, I don't look Arab and I'm not from an Arab country, so I'm born into a culture that is not dominantly Muslim or like Islam, and they don't pray, they do, I guess they pray in their own way, I don't know. I'm a product of my culture, and that's something that I cherish. So I'm a product of the food that I eat, the languages that I speak, the story that my family tells, and the memories that make this place feel like home. But there are also a lot of traditions that I cannot participate in as a Muslim. And I feel like that's a strange kind of grief, because from the outside it looks like you're not appreciating the culture or like the practices that have been there for many, many years. And it looks like to some extent you're rejecting your culture. And maybe that's just my case, because I have, like, my family is like a cultural and religious hot pot. So maybe that's just my case, and it's not the same for every single Muslim family in my region, but it just looks like I'm rejecting my culture, when in reality it's just that I can't participate and I can't partake in a lot of the practices that are being held. And it's not that I think that my culture is bad. If it's bad, it would be so much easier. Like, it would be so much easier to let go. But culture is rarely that simple. It's full of beauty, it's full of love, it's full of history, it's full of traditional clothes that I never wore because I'm not able to. And I feel like the things that we desperately try to hold on and keep are the things that we just can't. And maybe that is a test in and of itself, and maybe Allah will reward us for this sabr that we have to endure, because it just feels like you don't fit in sometimes. So I grieve the photos that I will probably never be in. I grieve the traditions that I will never partake in, the food that I will never eat because I can't. It's made out of something that is haram to us. And I feel like this is a strange kind of grief. To grieve for something that was never yours in the first place, to miss something that was never yours. And I feel like that's where the loneliness comes from, not because Islam has made me cultureless, but because my culture has no place in this religion. And learning to separate the two has been messy, because growing up, like I said, my family is a cultural and religious hot pot, so I come from different cultures, and different religions to some extent in my family. So navigating that has been messy. It has been hard. I guess it's realizing that we don't have to carry everything we inherit, because at the same time, Islam has never asked me to erase any part of myself. It has never made me like have to pretend I was born somewhere else, or that it's never enough to be like I have to be from a Muslim country. It never asked that of me. It asked me to hold everything I inherit against something that is greater than culture itself. And I feel like that is powerful. And I feel like that's why the process feels so lonely sometimes, because I'm not just questioning like cultures or traditions, I'm questioning like core parts of myself, parts that I grew up believing that it was true, and parts that I'm just like, okay, if I were to have a family in the future, like what would I do? How would I integrate culture into their lives without it being haram, you know? So I think that's the hard part. And I feel like that's also beautiful as well, because if my identity was built on just culture, then it changes every time I cross a border, or it changes if I were to live somewhere, like my values would shift according to the culture. If it's built on Islam, if it's built on a relationship with God, with Allah, then I can carry my identity with confidence, and I can carry my culture or parts of the culture that I am able to accept with gratitude. I can appreciate the beauty in the culture and still have the courage to let go of things that have no place in the religion. I guess that's what being Muslim ultimately means. Like, knowing that your home isn't just a culture or a country, but or a place, but it's your relationship with faith. I guess this is a lonely battle, but one that I have to fight. And yeah, another way I could describe this is like I'm standing in front of a doorway and I see the people inside. I love the people inside. I want to be with the people inside. I understand why this place feels like home, but I know that this is a room that I am not able to enter. I just have to wait for the people to come out, or I just talk to them through the doorway. And yeah, it's a bittersweet feeling, I feel like.